Okay, so here's our last chapter. Chapter 18 is going to be on the metabolic pathways and energy production. So this is kind of the culmination of all of the different types of molecules, how our body uses these biomolecules to function, and specifically in terms of energy and how we power our body. Okay, so this first section starts off with just general, get you kind of oriented kinds of things. So the first one is, what is metabolism? So we hear about like fast and slow metabolisms, and that's, I mean, it's kind of the same type of thing if you have a slow or fast metabolism, but really chemically or biochemically, what a metabolism is all of the chemical reactions that provide energy or use energy in your body, or substances need. So metabolism, plants can have a metabolism. Anything that lives has a metabolism because it uses energy, and then it provides energy, breaks down things to provide energy, and then uses energy to help it grow and function. So metabolism is based off of two different processes, catabolism and anabolism. And a catabolic reaction, so the first one here, catabolic, breaks down large things. So it's going to break down large molecules. So we've talked about carbohydrates. Those have a lot of energy inside of them. We know when we run or something like that, when we exercise, we like to eat a lot of carbohydrates because they're broken down easily. That breaking down to provide energy for your body is called a catabolic process or catabolic reactions. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have anabolic reactions, which are the opposite. They take that energy, or what's called ATP. They take the ATP and use it to build molecules. So anything that requires energy, and specifically building molecules. So for example, or that's called an anabolic process. For example, anabolic steroids, you might have heard of these before. Those help to increase how fast your body can synthesize protein. So that's why you get all bulked up and everything. So those are the kinds of steroids that are prohibited and illegal. So I like using this particular visual here. So if you have ATP, which means that you have stored energy, we'll see what that is in just a moment on the next slide. But ATP is our storage of energy. Then an anabolic reaction, such as a muscle contraction, transport, synthesis of cellular compounds, all of those kinds of things. Anabolic reaction forms ADP and a phosphate. That's what the PI stands for. And this shows that you've already used the energy. So the catabolic reaction is going to break down something like a carbohydrate, a fat, or a protein. It's going to break it down and use that energy to restore ATP or reform ATP, which now has the energy stored inside of it. So what is ATP? I keep saying that. It is adenosine triphosphate. So you see that we have over here a adenine base, that nitrogen-based base that we saw in chapter 17 with nucleic acids. Ribose, so that is our sugar that we also saw in RNA. And then now we're going to have on the C5 prime position, we now have 3 phosphate groups, 1, 2, 3 phosphate groups with phosphate diester bonds. So if you have 1, it's called adenosine monophosphate, or AMP. If you have 2 phosphates, it's diphosphate. If you have 3 phosphates, triphosphate. And that's where you get all of these abbreviations from. So ATP and ADP, the only difference is 1 phosphate group on the end. So where have you seen AMP before? It's one of our nucleic acids, in specifically RNA, not DNA, but in RNA, because it's not deoxy. It would have to be deoxy AMP for DNA. So overall, this is the structure that we're going to be talking a lot about this entire chapter. So just remember that ATP has energy, is the energy storage. ADP, at least structure wise, is very similar, but minus the phosphate group.